views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
And hello, everyone, and welcome to the Social Justice Forums. I'm Daren, Jaime, and of course, we thank you for joining us. If anybody asks what the Social Justice Forum is about, it's an opportunity to have a deeper dialogue, talking about many of the inequities that many people face. We also promote civic engagement and also multiple points of view. It's an opportunity to learn, it's an opportunity to hear, and it's an opportunity to share. Get ready, I should say, because the Social Justice Forums starts right now. And welcome back to the show. We start off with special news in regards to New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo. He's announced the legalization of adult use cannabis. The bill has the potential to generate millions in tax revenue. And our BronxNet reporter, Lena Green, speaks with the Bronx residents about their take on the legalization of marijuana and what it actually means for them.
Governor Andrew Cuomo signed legislation legalizing adult use cannabis. The bill erases previous marijuana convictions and makes use legal for adults 21 and older.
It takes away some of the people that got 2 strikes against them already because of the weed from back in the 80s. It's what we needed.
The law allows adult New Yorkers to possess up to 3 ounces for recreational use and allows the cultivation of 6 plants for personal use.
I think it's great. It's awesome. And I think that it took too long for this to pass. And it's great because nobody has to trouble.
According to lawmakers, the bill has potential to generate 30,000 to 60,000 jobs and $350 million a year in tax collection.
It's a recreational drug, but it's also for copacetic reasons and chronic illnesses, depression, and all of that. So why not? Finally, long time waiting.
All cannabis taxes will be deposited in the state's revenue fund to implement the law. Any remaining tax revenue will go towards education, community grants, and the Drug Treatment and Public Education Fund.
Legalizing weed in New York was the best thing they could have ever did. Now we need to get the dispensaries up and popping so everybody can make their money the way they do.
For more information on the law, you can visit the new website for the Office of Cannabis Management at cannabis.ny.gov. For BronxNet, I'm Lana Green.
And thank you, Elena. And we, of course, will continue to keep you updated on more information such as this right here on the Social Justice Forums. We turn now to our very first guest. Our guest wants to make a change in the world of politics. He came to New York on a travel visa, stayed and lived undocumented for several years. Once receiving permanent residence, he pursued a path to public service. And when he joined the police department for 25 years of service with the New York City Police Department, and then he also observed the impact of gun violence and the need for sensible gun laws and the impact of an economy that does not work for everyone. Joining me now to share his point of view on this matter, I'm joined also by Bronx Borough candidate, Sammy Ravelo. And Sammy, good to have you here on the Social Justice Forums.
Thank you for having me, Daren. For me, it's a pleasure. Just one tidbit. After I graduated from high school, from Walter High School in the Bronx, I joined the military. I served in the U.S. Navy for 4 years, and I fought in the first Gulf War.
Wow! Well, thank you for your service. A true serviceman. And listen, let's talk about this here. You come in, you served in the U.S. military, but you were undocumented for a moment. And talk us through that time of your life when you were undocumented and what brought you here.
Yeah, well, my mom brought me here, and through no fault of my own, personally, she didn't send me back. I came from the Dominican Republic. It was rough. You're a 16-year-old undocumented. Once you graduate high school, you have one of very few things that you were able to do. I decided that I wanted to wash cars and work in a bodega or work in the supermarket. In the late 80s, we were in the middle of a crack epidemic. I had friends that were up to no good, let's put it this way. But I decided to keep a straight and narrow. That's because of my mom. She's my hero. And I waited until I got my documents, my papers, if you will, like that we call it. And once I received them, I went to Fordham Road in Grand Concourse and joined the U.S. military. And the rest is history. I decided to come back to the Bronx after my service. I actually was offered a very good job in California. And, I turned it down because I'm an East Coast guy, and I wanted to come back. I came back, went to Bronx Community College, and then I joined the NYPD.
How hard was it for you to go through that process of paperwork? I mean, we know what the immigration process is right now. Compare what it was then to what it is now.
Well, what I hear is that it's a lot harder now than it was when I was undocumented in the late 80s. Obviously, it was a different era back then. I'm going back almost 35 years ago, but it's a lot harder now. So it's more involved, and it involves obviously a Republican Party that is totally anti-immigrant. At the time, when I was going through my situation, most of the Republicans, and a lot of people probably forget that there was the Ronald Reagan gave amnesty to 11 million immigrants at the time, or undocumented immigrants. So it was a lot different than it was back then than it was now, for sure.
Yeah. Talk to me about making that decision to go to the military, because obviously that was a huge decision. And right off the bat, I mean, you got your paperwork and then boom, you go to the military. Somebody would say, well, why not take your paperwork and hang around here a little bit more? What was your decision behind that?
Well, let's put it in perspective. I love the United States of America. I love the fact that I was here, and then I'm finally getting the chance to live the American dream openly. I was under the shadows back then, and I wanted to pay back, and that was the only thing that I could think of. A lot of my friends said, "Oh, well, you probably just needed the job." No, I actually wanted to serve in the military, and what better way for me to be part of that, of the beginning of the American dream, than serving this country, who is now my country. And that's what I tell all the young folks. So yeah, I wanted to serve. Did not know that I was going to end up in a war, but I'm happy I did, and I'm happy that I came back to tell my story.
Yeah, again, thank you for your service. Serving in the Gulf War, give us that experience of what life was like as a United States soldier serving in the Gulf War, and certainly, as you said, it wasn't something that you anticipated.
Well, it was surreal at the time. There was a sense of pride. There was a sense, we were all obviously afraid. We didn't know how long this war was going to last. But it was a sense of righteousness, because that, it was just not the United States, going at it alone. A lot of people don't remember. There were another 75 countries that joined the United States in liberating Kuwait. And thank God that it was a very quick war. We got the job done, and I'm here to tell my story.
Yeah. Well, now that you can tell the story, you can tell the story of how you transitioned from the Gulf War to the New York City Police Department. After serving in the military, you made the decision that you wanted to come over and really work in law enforcement. Give us that take. Were you always in the law enforcement mindset, or was there something that prompted you?
No. I actually did not like the police, to be honest with you. When I was a young man, like all of us, because there's a lot of it is because of misconception, and two, sometimes we did not grow up thinking that we were able to become cops. I remember as a young kid, all the cops were white. So we didn't. In my head, I didn't see any police officer that looked like me. But in between the time that I was in the military and the time that I get back, my cousin had joined the police department. He gave me an application. I filled it out, but I totally forgot about it. I enrolled in Bronx Community College, where I got involved in student government there. I became a student senator. One of my mentors is the late Roscoe Brown. He was Tuskegee Airman. And, he opened his doors a lot to me. He saw something in me. I don't know what, to be honest with you. That got me involved. So we made a few changes within the administration. And then I joined the police department. They came calling. I said, you know what? I need a job. And I had that sense of also service. So I joined the police department, not knowing that I was going to end up doing 25 years.
Yeah. Share with me a little bit about where we are right now today as a nation, and what's going on nationally is the same thing that's going on locally. As the nation, and you hear a lot of people talk about actually defund the police. You've been in the police department 25 years, retired. When you hear defund the police, what comes to mind for you, and what are your thoughts?
Okay, that's a great question, Daren. It worries me. What happens is this: there's a movement, and compartmentalize this defund the police movement. You know, obviously there are issues with a lot of police departments. I've been very vocal about backing the NYPD and the job that the NYPD has done, because it's not the same police department that it was when I joined. It has changed throughout those 25 years. I know they've changed for the better. And I am obviously against defund the police, against defunding the NYPD, because what happens when we do that and we take funds, we take policing away from our communities, the people that suffer are us, kids that look like me and you, Daren. And I constantly tell people, no, we need a fully funded police where, you know, whether it's we got to give more training for de-escalation to some of our officers, whether we want to put more community affairs officers or neighborhood coordinating officers, but taking police away and taking that police presence from our neighborhoods without addressing what we're going to do with our youth is dangerous. And I've been proven right. Right now, violent crimes are up 276% in our neighborhoods. You know, every time a young man gets shot and died, we kind of think about the criminal as opposed to the victims that are left behind by this shooting. So I think that, you know, some of the things that we need to do is, before we start removing our police officers from the police, let's make sure that we find things for our youth to do. Let's keep crime under control. Right now, I see violent crimes going up even more. 155 kids have been shot year to date in the Bronx, as opposed to only 55 last year.
So let me cut in and ask the question here. You make a valid argument that, you know, crime needs to be attended to. But could there be an argument to be made to say, listen, let's put some more money towards resources so that way we don't have to have a lot of officers on the street to do and take care of this crime? Because if you answer some of the root causes, there can be some root results.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, people, you know, and again, I say, when we're talking about money, no, not necessarily more cops, you know, we can probably have less cops where they're not needed, but removing them without having, you know, without putting money, without fixing what we're going to do with the money that we just took away from the police department, what we're going to do then, it's a problem. And you see it right now. Right now, the movement was, let's take $1 billion away from the police department. Let's shorten the force by attrition by 3,000 cops. And the result is kids have gotten hurt. It's just a fact. I'm not just me making it up. A lot of it has to do with there's not enough police presence. Now, you're absolutely right. I believe that during the Bloomberg years, when he decided to cut a lot of the programs for our youth, you know, when crime was low, I don't know why he decided to do that. It plays a big role. I 100% agree with you. But, you know, defunding the police prior to, you know, let's find what our kids, you know, what can they do? It was a big error. Right now, we're producing more criminals and who are committing real crimes against our people. You know, they're not committing the crime somewhere else. They're doing it in our neighborhoods. I walk around, I probably am the only candidate walking around having no problems going into NYCHA buildings and talking to folks out there. And I was in the Edenwald houses last night, and they tell you, we don't want less police. We don't mind the police. You know, what a lot of people don't like what the police does when it comes to heavy-handed tactics, or what they hear in the news that some police officer in Jacksonville, Florida, or some police officer in Ohio. And I tell them, listen, that's the news. That's not here, the NYPD. And our elected officials do a disservice when they compare incidents that happen outside New York, all right? And they put the NYPD in the middle of that. And that's what I've been vocal about. I've been vocal about, don't do that. Because some cop over in Minnesota did something wrong. Don't try to hurt the police officers here in New York, because the people that are going to end up suffering are people that look like.
Yeah. Well, a lot of New Yorkers, and I mean, let me ask the question, do you get the people's pain? When you talk about, you use the word, you know, the people who are the most victims will be the youth, but then the youth are also the ones who are the most targeted sometimes. And when we can talk about stop and frisk, and people thought about stop and frisk was a great idea. But in the end, we all found out that stop and frisk ultimately became a bust. But in the parts of young people, it's like, it did nothing more but made us feel more targeted and many times unwarranted. I'll ask the question, do you feel as though you get the sense of what people are angry about and why they're angry?
Absolutely. And I was in a radio interview or a Facebook Live last night with Assemblyman Al Taylor, and we specifically spoke about a stop, question, and frisk. So I'm going to tell you what stop, question, and frisk did. It was a good tool for doing investigations. William Bratton brought it. I was a part of the police department. It was great for investigating crime and solving cases. What happened was that they, instead of using it and keep using it as an investigative tool, they use it as an enforcement tool, and that was wrong. And I was very vocal about it 10 years ago when I was still a police officer. When I was a sergeant in the NYPD, I was very vocal about it, where I said that this is wrong. We cannot just use stop, question, and frisk in order to keep as an enforcement tool. What the police department used to do, and I'm gonna unveil it here right now, is that they used to tell a young cop, and cops hated doing this, by the way. They used to tell a cop, listen, you're gonna go out, we're gonna give you overtime, we're gonna put you in a corner, but you're gonna have to come with 10 criminal court summonses, 10 stop, question, and frisk, and 10 moving violations. You're forcing a young cop to actually conduct performance when it wasn't even warranted. So I totally agree, and I feel people's pain. My mother was one of those that got stopped one day. I mean, come on, but it stopped. The lawsuit proved that the police department was wrong. They were blind into believing. And I tell you, the commissioner right now was one of those authors of Stop, Question, and Frisk, Commissioner Shea. A lot of people don't talk about that. But at the end of the day, we got it right. And we were, whether it was forced by the courts, but we got it right. But, are we now going to push back and say, police department, don't do anything. Don't stop, or even are the guys that are actually committing real crimes. I don't know if we really want to do that. At the end of the day, I think Assemblyman Taylor kind of agreed that, listen, sometimes we just have to let things happen the way they should. We need our police officers at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, let me move on to another topic that's of your heart. I know that you're running for Bronx Borough President. We want to give you a few minutes to have the opportunity to share. Why is it that you decided to seek the seat of Bronx Borough President? Okay,
yes, same thing. The Bronx is the site of, or we've been the poorest borough for the last 50 years. Our current politicians, they keep telling us that, it's going to be light at the end of the tunnel. We have politicians that have been there 8, 12 years, and they keep on telling us the same thing. The same politicians are looking for another seat. It's like a merry-go-round that's happening in the Bronx. So me personally, I saw the landscape of politics is changing in the Bronx. The narrative is that you need experience to be Bronx Borough President, but in reality, no. What you need is you need to be a Bronxite that wants to be a voice for those in the Bronx, that's not tied to any political machines. And I believe that I'm the best candidate. I actually have a record of working for 25 years in the Bronx, in direct contact with the community, and I know what the community needs are. I'm going to give you one tidbit. You asked about the police department. In 25 years, I'd never received a civilian complaint while working with the police, because I knew how to treat people with respect, and I'm very proud of that. And that's what the Bronx needs. The Bronx needs an advocate that has the credibility, and I think I'm the best suited. I'm the best person suited for that.
How do you deal with the issue of unemployment? I mean, that's huge and heavy out here in the borough of the Bronx. How do you tackle that?
Well, what we could do, since the reality is that Bronx Borough presidents don't have any legislative powers, but what I'm planning to do is partner up with a city council, and what we need to push is for grants and low interest loans for our businesses. If you walk down Fordham Road, you walk down 3rd Avenue, you walk down Burnside, you walk down Morris Park Avenue, where I'm going to be opening my offices this Saturday, people use these stores that are closed. And we need to start, moving capital for people that want to take the risk and start a business and be able to do that. And we're going to be able to do it through grants and we're going to be able to do it through low interest loans. And when I talk low interest, I'm talking about 0.5%, 1%, where people don't feel the burden of having to pay high interest on these loans. Because the people that want to take risks and put their money into a business, we want to give them that opportunity.
Talk to us about the health. We know that health is a huge issue here. The Bronx, number 62 out of 62 counties. How do we improve the health situation here in the borough?
Well, it's going to have to be an all of the above strategy. We definitely have to do something about the Cross Bronx and the pollution that's creating. And my son, I live close to the Cross Bronx, and my son is asthmatic, and he grew up as an asthmatic kid. And it's one of those that we have to, through action and also through education. I want to expand on Michelle Obama's initiative of providing healthy meals to our kids and start teaching at grade level schools the importance of eating right and having a healthy living, healthy environment. And obviously, I'm waiting to see what Joe Biden is going to do with Obamacare, what we popularly call Obamacare. Hopefully, it gets expanded to the rest of the population, and through our health system, also provide that education that we all need in order to live, healthy lifestyles.
Yeah. I know one of the things that you're proposing, free CUNY. Talk to me about your thoughts about having a free CUNY system.
Yeah, great. Well, as the only CUNY graduate, very proud of that in the race. Yeah, I'm not talking state and private schools. They can charge. I believe that education, especially here in the city, is important, and it's a right for every citizen to educate. And we have to, because a country that does not educate their citizens is doomed to fail sooner or later. And the people that are less educated are, folks, and I keep saying it, folks that look like me, that are African American and Latinos. And I believe that a lot of people do not attend school, whether it's trade school or CUNY schools, because the small amount of money that they have to pay, even that they can't afford. So I'm looking to see if I can partner up with either state and local legislators to see how we can provide free education for our citizens.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask a little bit more about the issue of social justice before we get out of here. You get one final take to tell our viewers, what does social justice mean to you?
Social justice means that, all right, our founding documents said in order for us to build a more perfect union, all right, we're not going to be a more perfect union until everyone is educated. Everyone has access to education. We're not going to be a more perfect union if we don't curb our homelessness that we have here in America. We're not going to be a more perfect union until we have our citizens are healthy. We're not going to be a more perfect union until our citizens are safe. Social justice, that's what social justice means. Equity among everybody. Doesn't matter if you're white, black, brown, if you're a member of the LGBTQ community. We all have the right to the American dream, and that's what social justice means to me.
All righty. Sammy Ravelo, we got to leave it there, but thank you so much for being with us here on the Social Justice Forums. Appreciate your time and certainly look forward to having you back.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
All righty. Sammy Ravelo, our guest here on the Social Justice Forums. I do want you to stay with us. We do have a little bit more show coming up. Don't go away. We got another guest coming up right after this.
We know that people are dealing with the health crisis, but there's also a lot of food insecurity.
We're giving out healthy food options, and that's what's key here.
If you're a senior, you have a disability, they'll actually deliver meals to you.
The residents are anxious, they're worried, they're scared, they want to be tested.
When things were happening in our community and we couldn't get the help.
There's almost a presumption of criminality that attaches to your skin color.
The site will prioritize those who are at highest risk in the population.
If you feel symptoms and you'd like to visit one of these COVID-19 testing sites here in the Bronx, you may call the State Health Department's hotline.
Important to note about this site is no reservations are needed. This is a walk-in clinic.
A lot of us are out of work and looking for something to do.
We have the machinery and the skills to make large scales of these masks and gowns.
Take care of your people. It's going to go way further than we actually can understand.
Right now, employees like myself are just adjusting to the new reality.
Reporting from BronxNet,
When taking public transportation, don't touch your phone. Carry hand sanitizer and use it immediately upon leaving the bus or train. Avoid touching your face. If someone is coughing or sneezing, move away. Wash your hands with soap and water as soon as possible. Limit contact with poles. If possible, avoid rush hour. Don't eat or drink on public transportation. Keep your bag off the floor or other surfaces. Avoid directly touching turnstiles. Stay up to date with the latest from your local health department and CDC.
Well, in recent news, Mayor Bill de Blasio, the Office of Management and Budget, and the New York City Department of Small Business Services Commissioner Jonnel Doris announced more than $155 million will be allocated for small business recovery and job training in emerging markets in the city's executive budget for the fiscal year 2022. Now, since the beginning of the pandemic, SBS has launched 28 initiatives to help small businesses and job seekers stay resilient, including a hotline of over 57,000 callers and resources connecting 5,000 businesses to over $142 million in funding. Well, what does this all mean? We've got joining us now to share a little bit more on the details of this and more. I'm pleased to be joined by the Commissioner of the Department of Small Business Services, Jonnel Doris. And Jonnel, good to have you back here on the Social Justice Forum.
Thank you so much for having me back on, Daren.
Well, I want to really look front and center right now. When we talk about small business, not only is it the lifeblood of America, it is right here in our New York City, the lifeblood of what we do. Talk to us about where we are right now and where small businesses are, because we know that post-COVID-19, a lot of people are still struggling with just trying to make it.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think you certainly hit it on the nail on the head there. While many businesses have really struggled through the pandemic, some, have not had the ability to continue operating. Some are still trying to figure out ways to come back. We still see some bright light. We see that through the various programs, either our programs or federal programs, or the state even programs, that many small businesses were able to survive this pandemic. But while that is ongoing, we still have a sort of a mixed bag, right? And so our job is to really target and go to those small businesses that are still struggling, still having, a hard time making ends meet. They're still having a hard time coming back. And so make the atmosphere in such a way, the economic atmosphere, that they are able to come back and survive and have a chance to thrive again in our city as we begin to reopen.
Yeah. And as we begin to reopen, of course, we know that businesses are really looking to see not only full capacity, but they really want to see their business go back to, full strength. When we look at what's going on right now, a lot of businesses are really relying on these funds to really help them to be able to get through. Particularly in the borough of the Bronx, we've understood that when it came to PPP and receiving the PPP, a lot of Bronx businesses weren't even able to get that. So talk to us about SBS and the work that it's doing with small businesses trying to bridge that gap.
Yeah, I mean, a great point on PPP. I think there's a larger conversation about when we talk about low to moderate income communities, when we talk about communities of color, when you think about businesses owned by people of color and women. We saw, particularly in LMI communities, when they all overlap, that we didn't see a lot of resources going to those businesses. For instance, we had 103,000 LMI businesses in the city. Out of that, we saw about maybe only 60,000 receive PPP. So you got 44,000 or so left, did not get any PPP resources. So what we did was we launched our Fair Share campaign for PPP to connect folks to actually those federal funds. And it's been a real success in the sense that we're getting to the outer boroughs, right? 73% on the outer boroughs, 70% minority owned businesses. So we're really, really locking in on where the need is the most. And certainly we've put out 5 financial programs, when it comes to grants and then two loans. And, again, we continue to make sure that there's borough diversity there and make sure that we're reaching particularly our LMI communities to help those businesses who are really struggling, like in the Bronx and other parts of the city the most.
Yeah. So what has been the biggest challenge for you dealing post-COVID-19? I mean, obviously trying to keep businesses afloat, hearing the cries of the people. What's been the biggest challenge for you?
Yeah, I think, look, one of the biggest challenges for us is just, if you can imagine going through a pandemic with little to no resources, right? When you think about the city at the time was $9 billion in deficit, right? During the height of the pandemic. And I think that was basically a challenge. And at the time, the federal government was not really moving to give any kind of real assistance down to the municipal level. And so we kept, of course, going and making the case that you need to get funding and resources to the local government so we can help our local businesses. And it wasn't, a little bit after that reality that they actually came finally with the PPP program to help small businesses. And so the months and months and months went by with no help. And the city, we launched the first in the nation small business loan and grant program to help small businesses right at the start of the pandemic. But, the biggest challenge was really around resources, being that the city and the state were at deficits. The federal government was not acting at the time. And we sort of had to wait a very long wait to help our small businesses with the magnitude of help that they need, like the PPP program.
Yeah. So businesses do need help, and we know there's some financial resources available. There are some COVID-related loans, and I know there's some deadlines that are coming up. Share with us a little bit about those loans and the deadlines.
Yeah, so there's several programs that are out there. One, as we talked a little bit about PPP. Just so you know, we do have at the end of the month is when the PPP program is slated to close, but it was slated to close before they extended it. But we just want everybody to just be aware. If you haven't signed up for it, visited your local lender yet, or your bank or your financial institution, you can definitely reach out to us at SBS, and we will help you and assist you through our Fair Share program. There's also the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. That grant is a federal grant program that provides emergency assistance for eligible venues affected by COVID. A lot of our venues were shut down and they were not even able to operate. So that's $16 billion set aside for those. We also can help you with that with our Curtains Up program that we have at the city. Then we also have the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. This is a really, really important one. As you can imagine, restaurants was uniquely hit during this time, and the federal government has provided this grant, just opened up this week, really, to give assistance to restaurants who were impacted. That's about $28.6 billion. The only issue with these is that they're nationwide, right? So everybody's competing for them. So we stood up again our Fair Share Restaurants program, the Fair Share PPP program, and the Fair Share Curtains Up program, all to help small businesses connect to these grants, helping them with the paperwork, giving them webinars, training, reviewing their paperwork, making sure that they understand all they need to actually move the needle on actually getting an opportunity to participate in these programs. And if you allow me, I'll just the other piece, which we're very excited about, and I think you sort of introduced this in your introduction, really is the announcement the mayor made, right? An additional $155 million in small business support and aid. We're getting a $100 million loan program, together to help small businesses. We're going to get a $100 million grant program from the city to help small businesses. We're putting investments in helping small businesses reopen fast by making a one-stop shop available for small businesses, making it easy for them to engage with the city and open their business. And then we're doing all types of investments in training, technology, healthcare, food services for our workers. Many people don't know, we also manage the workforce program of the city. We helped close to 80,000 workers during the pandemic to connect to opportunities, to training, and just answering their questions and making sure that they understand what is available for them. So, we'll continue to do that, but certainly these are financial programs and other types of programs available for small businesses and workers right now.
Talk to us about the mayor's program, because obviously he's dumping a lot of money into this, or at least the announcement that a lot of money is going to be dumped in. And then there's also, in addition to the mayor's program, there's also another challenge that we have out in the community. A lot of people worried about minority and small-owned businesses as well, because, many times access to resources does not happen, particularly in minority businesses. And so give us a little bit about where you see that landing and what minority businesses can look forward to.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you remember, but my job with the city started with as the first head of the mayor's office of minority women-owned business. We developed a program that has gotten city contract into minority businesses or MWBEs to $17 billion since the launch back in 2015. So look, we believe that even during the pandemic, we're close to $1 billion in aid to small businesses and contracts to those minority MWBE businesses. And so we understand the need. Listen, you know, Black-owned businesses, for instance, were closing twice as fast as any other business in the city. We saw losses across the board from Asian, Black, and Hispanic businesses, upwards of 75% during the pandemic when it comes to revenue loss. We saw that, you know, those businesses are 3 times as likely to be rejected, Black businesses from banks to get help and support. And the list goes on. And so what we sort of set up is a few things. One, to maximize our MWBE program, which is something that the city has. You get certified and you can work with the city, and we will work with you to get contracts with the city. Again, we mentioned we already did 17 billion since the mayor made those announcements and commitments, and we're already did about close to $1 billion in pandemic related contracting to small businesses that are minority and women owned. And so we have those programs set up. We also really are looking to make changes even in our programs that we provide and initiatives. We have the BNYC program, which is very specific program to really deal with the lack of Black entrepreneurship in the city and supporting the growth of that. You know, Black New Yorkers are 23% of the population and make up only 3% or a little more than that of the businesses. And that's a huge gap. We know that if you're going to deal with the racial wealth gap and also poverty and generational wealth, you've got to make sure that we deal with entrepreneurship. And part of that is what we're doing with the BNYC program.
Give us a little bit about where we are in regards to the digital divide, because in addition to all of the challenges that businesses are facing right now financially, the one part that we're talking about is that digital component. We know that students and teachers had to make the adjustments for the digital divide, but also businesses are now going to have to pivot by way of the digital divide. How are you seeing small businesses being affected in this area?
Oh, this is a critical point. Look, we understood this. We know that this was a challenge and done several things to address it. You know, we understood that if you are a small business now, if you do not have a digital storefront, you're at a disadvantage. Meaning, if your business is not online or you can able to deal in e-commerce, you will have a challenge in this environment when everything is seemingly going online. So what we've done, you know, the city launched $757 million in capital investment to launch our digital, to address the digital divide program. And so we're dealing with that with our broadband program and initiative that we put forth to make sure that this gets into all communities. We believe that we can reach about 600,000 New Yorkers, including many businesses, with this particular program. We've also launched a training for your employees program that's providing no cost online training, right, to New York City-based business owners and their employees to help them with courses like, you know, Zoom and Microsoft 365, Google Workspace, online marketing, e-commerce, and the like. And, you know, as simple as it sounds, many businesses, number one, they don't have the time to figure out how to do that. They don't have the resources to train their employees. So we're beginning to do it for them, and we're helping them bridge the digital divide, bringing direct help to those businesses. Also, we offer webinars on e-commerce, to our small businesses, teaching them how to, talk about your business in a way, how to pitch yourself, how to, taking your business online. That's a big thing. How to build a website, creating content for your customers that has value. And we also connected with really some first-in-class corporate partners like Deloitte to launch a small business recovery playbook. And that helped businesses also to understand what tools they need to respond, to recover, and to thrive. And then lastly, another partner, MasterCard, which we've been working with specifically around our BNYC program and our MWBE programs around how do we bridge the digital divide through their Digital Doors initiative, which helps those businesses connect, again, bring their business online, connect with customers online, and really support them in bridging that digital divide.
Did you have an idea as to how many businesses, I mean, personally, did you have an idea like how many businesses were really challenged with this digital divide thing until COVID hit? Or did you think like most people, well, most of these guys are doing all right?
No, it's we have the direct numbers. I mean, you can estimate, a third of businesses. I mean, just depending on if you just look at where the businesses fall within the landscape, or the significant number of businesses were struggling with this. And even if you understood that you needed to do this or had some sort of expertise around it, did you have the time and did you have the resources, right? And so what we were able to do is plug those holes, right? We took that sort of the time issue away by actually going directly to the employees and training them for you, resources, connecting you with these really amazing companies like Deloitte and MasterCard to really help bridge that divide. And then even through our own programs to provide those resources and training necessary to help those businesses.
So when we talk about moving forward, there's a lot of things that small businesses can consider. They can consider, applying for resources, getting help. They can consider, taking certain avenues by way of loans and or grants or participating. So from your estimation, in this time right now, are there more resources than ever? I was having a conversation with a business owner before. They're saying, it seems like I can't get the necessary help. And then on another side, you have somebody say, well, there's more resources now than ever due to COVID-19. How did you pan out the resources and then accessibility?
Yeah, look, it is a unique situation we're in, right? There's a tremendous amount of federal resources. I just listed a bunch to you, from helping restaurants to helping shuttered venues to helping just small businesses in general. I mean, unprecedented investments in small businesses. And also, of course, from the city and the state just announced $800 million to help small businesses. The city's putting out its dollars and adding on what we've been doing over the pandemic, the 28 programs we've launched. I mean, it can be overwhelming, right? And the ability for a small business to sift through all of this, could be a challenge for some small businesses. And that's why we really set up our hotline, and hope we can share that number. That hotline is so important. We got nearly 60,000 businesses reached out to us during the pandemic, and we've been able to help them. So that hotline is 888-727-4692, 888-727-4692, or 888-SBS for NYC. If you just call that number, we have folks there waiting to help you, to support you, to give you all the help that you need. Or you can go to nyc.gov/SBS online. All the things I talked about are right there and ready for you. And then we're able to help you sort of think through, what is best for me? Some people, like you mentioned, Daren, this thing is so important. Not everybody wants a loan. Not everybody can, afford a loan. Maybe you're just looking for grants, right? Even though grants tend to be smaller, but you don't have to pay them back, right? Loans tend to be a little bit bigger. You can use them to invest in your business, to grow your business, or help your businesses sustain and stabilize. But the biggest thing that we tell small business right now, if anything that you go after, is the PPP program, because it's essentially a forgivable loan. And that is important, meaning that, if you follow a few steps and follow their requirement, which is not much, it's now down to, I think, a page or two that you have to fill out, that now becomes a grant essentially to you. So we encouraged folks to first go there. Through us, of course, we help you through our Fair Share PPP program. We will help connect you to that resource because it is a forgivable loan, which essentially turns into a grant.
Yeah. Well, when we think about businesses right now and the challenges that are facing businesses, one of the things that, this pandemic has caused people to be is become more creative. Talk to me about entrepreneurship. What are you hearing about that? Because have we seen more entrepreneurs start to want to rise up to get that business going, to do that because of COVID-19?
Yeah, you know, it's really, really interesting. In the height of the pandemic, we were discovering, and I think this was great in so many ways, that, you know, the crisis have sort of spawned innovation. And folks were being innovative. We had businesses, for instance, who were caterers, now delivering actual food, came into the food delivery business to seniors, right, through the city's program. We've got restaurants who were shut down, who then applied to be a part of the city's food program to serve New Yorkers, and actually cooking and using that as a resource to help so many New Yorkers, but also help their business. We saw businesses pivoting in the sense that, you know, consulting firms joining hands together and then really attacking something that they've not really attacked before, or going into a tech space or launching out into another industry. You know, you've got folks who are in the clothing and fashion industry started making masks and gloves and face coverings. I mean, all that innovation we saw. We also saw leading up to the pandemic, and I think during it, really out of necessity, a real spike in the growth of also businesses in the city, increase in the number of Black businesses at that time. They were growing at 4 times faster than white-owned firms in the city. When you think about it, a lot of that is out of necessity because folks, you know, were losing jobs or weren't able to get promoted on the job that they're in, or the instability in the market, and stepped out really and went into entrepreneurship. So we've seen a lot of innovation happening right now during this time. And really, as a core principle, we have our 3 core principles here at SBS, and innovation is the first one, right? We are talking about how do we make businesses more innovative, making them more creative, doing things that, you know, sort of out of their normal wheelhouse, spreading their wings a bit, learning new trades, learning new tools, learning new ways to actually attract customers and grow their business. We've seen a lot of that even during the pandemic, because really this is an opportunity also. Unfortunately, it's happened this way, but certainly during this time, the city needed things, the private sector needed things. You know, the tech sector, as we heard and continue to see, continues to grow significantly. The health sector continues to grow. Even during the pandemic, the food sector, the ways of, you know, how we engage with our restaurants and our food eateries around the city, and even our grocery stores. If you think about bodegas, if you think about now, folks are delivering to you. I mean, all that logistical processes needed innovation and creation to actually do it. And that's what we've seen during this pandemic.
Yeah, sure does a little bit from you, from a personal perspective. What's it been like for you trying to navigate and handle all of this? You know, nobody anticipated a pandemic would come, but with all this thrust on your shoulders right now, talk to us about what it's been like for you trying to navigate pandemic, post-pandemic, and still be able to keep these businesses across the city afloat.
Well, look, it's been an absolute pleasure, for me to help businesses. I mean, part of why we are public servants is that we want to help people and to see those workers get jobs, to see those businesses come back. That's the joy, that's the fulfillment that we get, right? And as a man of faith, I rely heavily on that to keep me, sort of in a place of optimism, particularly when it was very dark out there, right? When everything didn't look great, when we were all trying to figure out our way out. But we're at the place now that, as the mayor continues to say, look, this is recovery for all of us. Not just a few people we want to recover. We want the entire city to come back. And that is what brings me the energy, brings me the joy to see folks, families who were impacted by COVID-19, like so many of our families who have lost loved ones, who have lost jobs, who have lost their business, that we have a role to play as government. We have a significant role to play in how we help these people come back, how we help them grow, how we help them develop. And that's really what brings me joy, gives me life, gives me the energy to keep going. So I appreciate you asking. And certainly it's been a challenge, but we wake up every day with my great team here at SBS and across the city, and the mayor who's sort of entrusted the work into our hands and given us the tools to get there and do what we need to do. I think we're well on our way to bring our city back.
Well, And is there estimation on your part? How long do you think it'll take? You know, I mean, with what you've seen and what you've canvassed the ground, how long do you think this recovery can possibly take for small businesses in our city?
Yeah, it varies. Right now we're seeing a massive increase in so many levels. Foot traffic we see up. We see revenue, sales are up. We see that over year that most job postings have gone up significantly. So we know the city is coming back. These indicators are there. But it's going to be a challenge for some of our small businesses, particularly those who have been hit in our LMI communities, low to moderate income communities, or communities who have been hit the hardest by COVID. The city has identified 33 communities around the city, which have been really, really devastated by COVID. And we see that in those communities, that's where we're targeting our resources. That's where we see the need to continue to do all we can to bring those businesses back. That's what those loan and grant programs I mentioned before are going to be focused, right? They're going to be focused on LMI communities, low to moderate income communities, and communities hardest hit by the COVID pandemic. And that's when we sort of infuse these communities with the resources, the help and assistance and support, then we will continue to see them grow and come out of this even better. But certainly, many estimates as the direct time, the mayor has announced July 1st as the city's big reopening, and we're pushing to that date for as many small businesses as we can to help them reopen, to help them come back. We also heard going into September, where we're going to see sort of on a more global perspective that the markets and the supply chains and the economy begins to sort of make the right turn in the right direction for sustainability going forward.
Well, certainly we want to thank you for taking the time and sharing with us a lot of information in terms of where we're going as a city. I know you've had your work cut out for you, but honestly, it's really been a joy to see the recovery, slow but sure. And as we move towards July the 1st, I think a lot of us are excited about the possibilities, particularly in the area of small business. Jonnel, Doris, thank you so much for being with us here on the
Thank you
Social
so much,
Justice.
Daren. Thank you.
All right. Well, we want to tell you that about concludes our edition of the Social Justice Forums. We want to thank Jonnel for joining us as well. Want to thank also Sammy Ravelo, and thank you for watching as well. Listen, next week, we'll continue to elevate the conversation, continue to talk about the matters and the issues that really matter at the forefront right here across New York City and beyond. Daren, Jaime saying thank you for watching the Social Justice Forums. We'll see you again next week.